Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Vikram.
I thought up till people come in, let me just go through the slides.
Yeah, that's okay. Vikram, I have to leave at about, what time do I have to? About 3. I've actually to go to a funeral. So, but I'm here for the first half hour.
Perfect. That's okay. At least. So what you can do, because let's use the half an hour. Let's just stop this. Stop this. This can always happen. So it can start with you, Andrea. What are the learnings and key takeaways from the symposium?
I suppose for me, the learning and key takeaways is that spirituality is personal. So that came up a lot. It's different than religion. Within the mediation room, it is something that connects us, and it is something that provides energy, and it is something that is there. It is present in the room with us and with the parties. So, and the other learning I took away is that Louis Orr has an amazing ability to put so much information into one little picture. I loved it.
But I think the issue with Luis is that yesterday there was a session with Zaida from Venezuela, and he was supposed to come in to translate. He didn't land up. And I call him up. He says, I'm busy somewhere, no message. Then I called up Constantia. She came in 5 minutes. So that session happened. Because
I haven't listened to that one yet, and I will listen back to it though.
Yeah, because she had some very interesting thoughts, but she did not know English at all. So that was good that Constantia came in 5 minutes. Can you imagine? And the interesting thing was the Constantia session was just before this. She couldn't make it for that session because there was a mediation going on. So this is how it was.
It sounds like everybody's busy with mediations at the moment.
That's good. I think that's a very nice thing.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
But tell me, you've watched some of the sessions? You have?
Yeah, I've watched a couple of sessions. I've watched Ken's one. I've watched Louis' one. I've watched what's the girl from the Mediator from Australia?
Jodie and Sarah.
Sarah. I've watched Sarah's one. Yeah. Yeah. So
okay. So not too many. Not too many.
No, but I've been sick, so that's my excuse.
I know. But I've also sent the email to Ken. I don't know whether you saw that.
I did. So and just your live streaming there. So, yeah.
So, but let me also tell you about that conference. I've put that up. Let me just take you through. These are the speakers. So, Stephan, you haven't seen that because Stephan spoke about how spirituality can actually change the genetic structure. That was interesting.
Wow.
That he had some, I'm sure some work happening somewhere. Prerna, of course, it was a nice session. Spiritual person that she is. Elena got a little emotional during the session.
Hard time. Yeah.
Jodie, yes. Lisa, Kathy. What this happened in between? This was the.
Oh, I actually saw some of Anna's one.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah. I actually saw some. She was wearing a lovely green top, and she was also saying that it was a hard time for her as well.
Yeah, but I don't know, she's been able to, her attitude out of that is still nice. I mean, she's handling it well, I think. So that's nice. Positive, in the sense, positive. Then Seda, of course, there's interesting discussion we had on, of course, the indigenous peoples and their way of going about it. I think we need to, but that, I told you that symposium is happening in August, where the mediation of culture and traditions with a focus on indigenous peoples. Then Gunavathi, Gabriela.
I missed Gabriela's one, and I'd like to actually listen to that.
Yeah, you should. Federico got into the Christianity part of it. Ken, of course. Then, of course, this happened. I'm just putting out what happened in April. So this okay. What is happening now is because Francesca couldn't be there and Kathy couldn't be there. So what I'm going to do is separate sessions on creativity and creativity, just do creativity and mediation. So there's one thing happening on 11th of May, that is theater and mediation. There's someone from Argentina.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to happen. And there's Christina also said she's also doing some work on theater and mediation, or theater mediation theater, something like that. So she will, of course, be there. So rather we had to do 2 parts, because the first one, the translation was an issue because Louis came in, he didn't have too much time. The next, his sister, was a sister or daughter, I don't know. It was sister, I think, who came in. And Louis and Teresa, did you watch this?
Didn't watch Teresa's, no, but I will do.
Okay, Teresa on that. Charles, Chuck had very nice things to say. I was really happy for all the things that he had to say about the work that I'm doing. But good thing about the value-based negotiation that he spoke about. That was good. Okay, I don't know. Okay, watch this also. Hans is doing very interesting work in the sense with conflict areas where there is violence and all. He's done a lot of work there, and how he even looks at this heart, soul, spirituality coming up in those, and how people have not really looked at it, and he says they come with their toolbox into these conflict areas, and they think our tools don't work, because obviously you have to look at them differently. So nice. It was a nice thing. This person, yes, we've seen this person. What happened in between? What about 23, 25? There was someone in between, I'm sure. 24 is not there. Okay, no. Mr. Panchu came in later. Okay, so that
Yes.
wasn't mentioned there. Yeah, so he came in later. And then we had JP. Okay, so this is what happened. This was what I was saying. Zaida came in and the translation was a thing. This happens tomorrow.
Okay.
Part two he turned 70 in March, so this is kind of connected to that. So this happens at the end of the month. This one's happening at 8:30 tomorrow. So this is what that conference is, right?
Okay.
So now whatever date Ken gives, so part of the conference, definitely the other topics, the interesting one that I told you, the one that came up. Oh, what is that one? What is the topic we've kept? Let me tell you the topic.
Neurodiversity, wasn't that what you said?
Yeah. Neurodiversity and mediation. That's one of the topics on diversity, equity, inclusion. So that should be interesting. So similarly, you'll have to come up with.
I think the neurodiversity one would be really interesting, simply because of the fact that people who are neurodiverse, they generally have a more creative mind, and the mind works differently. And I think we probably could learn an awful lot from that. And the likes of, the big tech companies, and they're making use of neurodiversity, and they're using that as a gift and a way to kind of expand thinking. And maybe that's what we should be doing as well.
So interesting. So they're also the same thing. So neurodiversity, the role it plays in relation to the mediator, the parties, and the process. Interesting. So that'll be one. So similarly, we have to add more such topics, because this is going to go on. I'm not going to put any limit to the time there. It can go on entire May. I'm going to give limited days. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Andrea?
Good, thank you. Lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you as well.
Lisa is busy. She's got some visitors from Bosnia. She's got some young people whom she's taking care of.
Yes, I had to send them off this morning they're going camping.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yes, I know. I had to make sure they had all of their stuff. I'm like a mom.
So Andrea's telling us for the learning and key takeaways. She's given a very brief part of it, but Andrea, you have to elaborate on it. It can't be so simple.
I think I'll only start coughing, Vikram, if I talk too much. So I think Lisa should share. I love listening to Lisa.
Oh, yes. No, you share, it'll warm me up. We want to hear you.
Lisa, I was saying what I took away from it was that, we're all spiritual beings in some way, but it's very personal. We all have, it means different things to different people. And then most people say it's different to religion, but as regards mediation, that it provides a sense of connection in a room and its energy. So bringing spirituality into the room, into a mediation without having said anything, it connects people and it helps them move forward, and it gives a sense of support. So while, people come into the room absolutely exhausted from their conflict, that when we bring ourselves in and our whole spiritual being, that it gives them a recharge. And the other thing I was saying that I loved, I don't know whether you saw it on LinkedIn, Louis Orr did a fabulous infographic.
Yes, he did a fun. I did, and I grabbed it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to download that for sure.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful.
But I'm still going to, I told Andrea, and I'm going to repeat it here. Louis did not do the right thing yesterday. He was supposed to translate in Zaida's session, and he didn't land up. And imagine Zaida doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Spanish. So I called up Constantia, last minute kind of thing, and she was so nice to come in. And then that session went on, and very interesting. I mean, Zaida's thoughts, please have a look at that. It was really nice. So I complain. I'm going to keep complaining until Louis doesn't get back to me and say, I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. Please, Andrea, what else?
I'm sure he didn't intentionally mean to upset you, Vikram. He is a nice man.
No, but imagine the situation. Here, Zaida has come in for the first time. And I told her I'll have someone do the translation. And here she's there and I'm there. And we have nothing to say to each other. And it was also because the internet connectivity was not the best. So imagine that was quite a situation.
I heard it's streaming on your end, the streaming translation.
Mm-hmm. Streaming translation, what is that?
It sounded like as she was speaking, your thing was translating it.
Yeah.
I heard that feedback someplace, but then that went away just briefly.
That's interesting. If that happens, we need that. I think that's something
Vikram,
which I need to bring. Yeah.
Vikram, so what did you learn from that incident?
Good question.
Which one? Louis's incident?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what I learned was that I have such nice people in this world. If Constantia could come in 5 minutes and do this, and she speaks Portuguese. She doesn't speak Spanish. I mean, in the sense she knows Spanish, but Portuguese is her language. But she came in and she did the translation, and it was really nice. So that's what it taught me, that we have such nice people in this world, and the connections that I have, I really feel happy about that.
And what did it teach you about you, Vikram?
About me?
Yeah.
I don't know. What it taught me was I do rely on people, and I expect them to get back to me if there's an issue, and I do feel disappointed with people. If that's what you're asking, I mean, that's what it is all about. I tell you what, the disappointing part was that not even a message saying, no, I'm busy somewhere and please, because no one gets to know that they're busy in the last minute. I mean, they get to know a little earlier. So that was a little sad and quite irresponsible, I would say. I found it really irresponsible because it was clearly understood and agreed upon. So that was something which.
If you were known what you know about Louis and having experienced him on your shows and having built up a connection, what assumption would you make, knowing all those things, about what might have happened yesterday that he let you down?
No, he's been very reliable in that sense. I've called him earlier. I had this session. Who was that session with? I don't know. We were having a discussion. This Christian in Ecuador. So he came in, and he also doesn't speak English. So Luis came in immediately, and he did that. Then in Zoraida's session, she also doesn't speak English. I called him up. He came in immediately, but only thing was that, I mean, he was, of course, busy. So he only came in for some time. So I had to do part 2 of Zoraida. So he's been nice that way. But I was thinking, why would a person not at least send you a message? Look, I won't be able to do this. That part I didn't. And he hasn't come in. I really wanted him to come in and tell me, because I haven't spoken to him after that. So that was interesting.
Yeah, it sounds to me that, like, just from what you're saying, that in the past that he's been very willing to jump in there and give you a hand and support you, and even when he is busy. So I would imagine maybe there's probably a very good excuse.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that. I would call him up. I would have called him up because obviously it was night for him after that.
Yes, but you know, Vikram also, he just can't resist giving Louis a little bit of a hard time.
I want to.
Joy. That's his joy.
Lisa, I'm just having a bit of fun here.
I know you are.
No, but
and I'm enjoying it so much.
Let me call him up, because I think what happened that day was that when that Zoraida session.
You call him here. You should call him and tell him to come here.
I'm calling him now. But what I'm saying is that with Zoraida's session, he just about woken up at that time. He said, "Give me 5 minutes. I just quickly, have coffee or whatever." I said, "No, she's there. The session is going on." So he came in immediately. I mean, so it was.
Yeah.
So I can't complain. I can't complain. But I still.
I would say you can't complain, and I would say that you should maybe give him a little bit of a break.
I want to, but let him come in. Let me tell him, Louis, we're waiting for you. We have to, that whole chart that you made, we have to discuss that chart with you. Please, we're on. Come and get that. And you have to open the chart for us. Yeah, he's coming in.
Oh, good.
First, let him give it the heart. Give him the heart. Oh yeah, I know. No, he's a nice guy, but of course we have to understand from him. So otherwise, I think what we'll do, we'll go maybe speaker wise. Maybe we'll do speaker wise. I don't know if, of course, you haven't maybe seen all of them. So that way, who all did you see? Andrea said she hasn't seen too many. Well, Lisa, how many did you see?
I saw quite a few. I went last night. I was watching them, trying to catch up. I didn't see Louis, but I will come back to them. Yes, I saw quite a few. Now, don't ask me how many, but I wanted to be prepared because I knew you were going to say, "Okay, what did you take away?" I said, "I better watch as many as I can," and so I did that. I was doing that last night.
But that was the topic. The whole topic was, what is your learning and key takeaways? So definitely I'm going to ask you that. There was no doubt about it.
Of course. And I said, I wanted to make sure I was caught up and tried to see all the ones that, I think there are only about 3 or 4 more that, I haven't seen. Okay, so
but also before we go further up, let me also tell you, because I just told Andrea about that conference which is coming up in May. So please, topics, we need topics. There'll be, of course, topics. My World Mediators Conference. You know that I'm celebrating World Mediators Day on 18th May on Ken's birthday.
Okay.
So we're starting that conference on that day. So you have to, I don't know whether you've seen those points that I put up on my website under Mediation Vision 2026. So take those points, and under those points, what discussion? So like I was telling her, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we are looking at discussing, of course, we've done Women's Day, right? International Women's Day, we've done that. So similarly, under that, one topic that has come up is neurodiversity and mediation. So that's going to happen on the 25th of May. So similarly, anything under that broad heading, if there's anything that you want to discuss, let's put it out, because I'm going to put out this maybe maybe tomorrow or something. So anything that you can think of. Andrea's also going to look at things. She'd organized something on the Ukraine thing. What is that whole topic?
Oh, the
war in Ukraine, learning something lessons for mediators. So
I'll give it to you now. I'll give you the subtitle.
Yeah.
It's
war in Ukraine. Basically
lessons for mediators.
Yeah. So Ken has written something on that. So we're going to have a session with him, whatever date he gives. So Andrea had organized something with him, but we haven't seen the recording, Andrea. I went to your
I'll send you the recording.
Yeah,
I had it up on LinkedIn, but I'll send it to you by WhatsApp. But Lisa, the idea behind it will be that we'll have a look at the actual article, and then invite as many mediators to come in and have a discussion about it and see, you know, what they think about the article and what they learned from it, and, you know, maybe their thoughts on it.
Because I clicked that link, Andrea, but the link said it's not, doesn't exist anymore. That whatever you put the file up there. Or
sorry,
whatever.
I'll send it to you. Vikram.
Yeah, so let's have a look at that. So that's one. So now we can go back, Lisa, to what you were saying about the speakers. Let me put the speakers up if you want me to do that. What about Ken? Let's start with Ken. What did you take away from Ken's session?
Oh, I don't want to go one by one. Let's just go in generic.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
That seems so, yeah. Then it feels like you're, yeah.
I thought it'd be easier. At least you know that, okay, so and so said that. Doesn't matter. We can go general. Yeah.
And then I have to remember exactly what someone said. And that's also difficult when you're going one by one. But in general, what I noticed was there are so many areas where people's spirituality, because spirituality for each of us is different, where it was touched also by mediation. So I heard people talking about different things, like what struck me also, when Mr. Panchu was also talking about how, you know, he had to give it up or let himself be led, you know, by his spiritual essence. And I heard that as well through that. So there's that, it was mediation of calling. There was part of that. It's what we experience in the process. Watching the parties, there was a lot of that, you know, what we see happening, how that touches us spiritually. And then, you know, where else, you know, in other areas. So for me, it was very broad, which is what I liked. You know, everyone had a different way that it was touching them spiritually. Yeah. And especially like I still, yeah.
I just said, let's say hi to Louis. Yes, exactly.
I better let Louis talk.
No, first I have to ask Louis, what happened yesterday? You were supposed to be doing the translation. Zaida doesn't speak any English. Why? What happened?
Cannot be disclosed the mission I had.
One message. That's all I needed. Can you imagine?
Mission.
Well, I mean, if you had sent me a message, I called up Constantia just after you said you're not coming. Constantia came in 5 minutes. And of course, she speaks Portuguese. That's her first language. But she did that.
Oh, well, I don't speak Portuguese. It's not the same than Spanish. So I would
Zaida was from Venezuela. She speaks Spanish. And translation was done by Constantia, whose first language is not Spanish.
Oh, got it. Okay,
and Louis had to send one message saying, I am busy. I can't make it. And that would have given me some time. Imagine Zaida comes in. And she's there, I'm there, we can't have a conversation. It's the silence there. The silence.
Louis, I jumped to your defense, so you're okay. I defended you in Vikram's yeah.
Thank you, Andrea.
I actually pulled the mediator conflict coaching on him. I said, so what assumptions are you making about Louis? What has your experience of Louis been in the past? So what does that tell us about
and what did I say? I said, oh, he's been very reliable. He's come in 5 minutes notice, right in the morning, early morning. So I said all that, Louis. I said all that. So, okay. So let's just, Lisa's just telling us about her thing. Then we'll come to your chart. That was interesting. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa.
Great to see you, Lisa.
Good to see you, Louis. Always. I didn't hear yours, though, but I love your graphic. I downloaded it. It's on my computer now.
Louis is going to take us through that.
Yeah, he's going to say, you can't steal my, IP.
No,
I'm
actually.
not stealing it. I'm learning from it.
Yeah. Can I share it for a second so I can explain?
Yeah, I think you.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, because,
okay.
Yes.
So this is not my creation. There's a phone ringing here. So this is not just my creation, because this is a joint creation, because this is the summary of the conversation I had with our dear friend Vikram. So I just put in visual while we were talking. I mean, what kind of resonated with me. Because Vikram started talking about mediators being like routers that help connect people. And so I stay with that in my mind. And it's like, okay, we are individuals like cell phone. We got in, and then I start drawing stories in my head. Like we are in a conflicting situation, and we are like cell phones, and we are losing our battery. We have no energy. We're kind of drained. We have no connection, and I think everybody had the feeling of having no internet and a little of anxiety. So that's how we are. We no connection, we no battery, and we are in conflict, and we are suffering, even if we don't know that we are suffering. So Vikram was saying that, okay, maybe I need to go the other way around. So minds, heart, and soul, we end up talking about energy and all the positive energy that holds the thing together in the world. And that energy we translate it into Wi-Fi, internet, the spectrum where the vibes of internet goes. So we, as mediators, like Vikram was saying, that we're like routers, so we help people reconnect. And that's when I start putting some spices, saying, oh, for me, that sounds like the Force, because since I was a kid, I was like fan of Star Wars and the Jedis. And then I have a friend, Mary Coven, that always say that our minds or our brains in conflict make that huge gap, that just only when the only way to cross that gap is when the brain holds the hand of the heart. And then I ran into this picture some time ago, and then I put it there, right? And you have an ear there, because listening to the people, being present, and it's kind of the way we can start building trust with the parties. So that's why we have these two cell phones, up left, lower left of the corners of your screen, with the batteries, with the no signal coming into the mediator's room. That's why it says beautiful mind and soul. And the mediation process is like we start charging the battery, we start sending the signal of internet, and there's a piece of charcoal under the heart and the soul, because we are like blowing the charcoal, so we turn on the fire, and that fire is related to the fire of E.T.'s heart lighting up in red in his chest. That was another movie that when I was a kid, and is that image always stay in my mind of the warm feeling of, I don't know, empathy or something that lights you up, and is your energy that you can see through. And then you have these three arrows going to the process of mediation. You are having those cell phones have a little more energy, more connection, more capacity to connect. And then all those drawings is like those stones in balance. And that idea of balance comes from the expression of Luke Skywalker, that the Force is not a power that you have. It's not about lifting rocks. It's the energy between all things, a tension, a balance that binds the universe together. And that connects that energy with the idea of chi in Chinese, or ki in Japanese, that's also similar, according to my understanding, with prana in Hindi, because I asked Vikram, what's this prana? And sounds like this energy that hold all together and all that stuff, right? And then you have this little guy. Some people call it Little Yoda, but he's from the Mandalorians. And then you have people together with this energy and putting things together or fixing things or binding things. And then you have an agreement. You can have like a cold shake of hands or a big hug. And then our batteries are charged, fully charged, and we have full connection, and we can have Wi-Fi and still go around the world happy with our cell phones.
Perfect. We have to clap for Luis. Is amazing.
No, it was what I was saying about the holistic system. So, you know, because what I heard from everyone touched all of those areas when they were speaking. So there was the area of, you know, why did we become mediators, or what was that? You know, that was part of that what was the drive, and then what we experience in mediation. How does that touch our spirituality as mediators, or their spirituality as the parties? You know, how do we see that transformation happen over time? And then there's the afterward, which we didn't really touch on that much, because that was something that I meant to say. Actually, one of the things I think I mentioned it to Vikram, and was that it occurred to me, and it's a metaphor. In Bali, I don't know if any of you have ever been to Bali, but they have these dances that they put in. Have you been to their dances when you were there?
Many moons ago.
Yes, so they have these dances, and there is always someone dancing the character of the evil spirit or the antagonistic spirit. And so the way that they go about it, though, the person who dances that has to be at a spiritual level, because if you put on the mask of the evil spirit, you have to be strong enough to be able to become yourself when you take off that mask. And that belief to me is also some truth about mediators, because I've seen mediators who've been trained, and they can't do a mediation because the effect of being in the mediation is too much for them. So that's another part of mediation that we haven't thought of, that being able to take on that. And I think it was especially poignant for me on last Saturday, because it was a very high conflict mediation, and the parties were really very negative, and I was drained for 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, yes, that is something that we have to know how to move through someone else's conflict and then regain ourselves, because we lose a part of ourselves for a little bit. And we take on some of that negative stuff and we don't let it go. And that skill of being able to, you know, move through that is also another skill. And I think that's our spirituality as well, if we have to recharge. And you put it there, right there in your thing, was recharging in that graphic. I love it.
So basically, look, we had to come up with some analogy with the whole spirituality thing and that connection between people. So that internet of computers being connected together around the world, that's what internet is, nothing else more than that. So everything is connected. So how do you create something which connects all these? So obviously the whatever signal, I mean, of course, Wi-Fi is what we are catching through, but that whole signal that goes through between them, however they're connected through broadband, some are connected on 3G, some are on slow lines. Everyone is at different level of that connection at that speed, but they're all connected.
And the concept of balance, I also like that you have the stones, because that's also there. I mean, like, again, I go back to Bali, because there's always a balance between the good and evil, or the yin yang. There's always that balance, because we don't eliminate any. We need the proper balance. and even within us, you know, it's about having that right spirituality so that we have the proper balance. So I love that image of the stones, because I think that's exactly right. Helping people restore their balance so that they can reconnect.
So I think, Louis, what you need to do is that what this graphic of yours, I think you'll have to put in maybe a little note with it, and let's circulate it and let everyone give their comments on it. So that's something interesting that's come out. Someone has actually
It's very
put in.
fun. That's
Yeah.
a wonderful thing. I was so happy when you put it on LinkedIn, and I'm like, yay!
So something happens. I mean, when you have these discussions, nice, interesting things come out. So that's the good part. And let me also tell Louis that from 18th May is Ken's birthday. That is, I'm celebrating that as World Mediators Day. So a conference is starting on that day, World Mediators Conference. The theme is Mediation Vision 2026. I put down some points on my website under that top heading. So please come out with something that you want to discuss in relation to those things. Social problem solving is something that you do, maybe relating to that. So whatever. So we need topics on that, and then I'll put those things out. Let people join in. So it'll be more like they'll be like discussions. So it'll be whatever that topic. Whoever comes in can come in at whatever time they want to come in. So I'll keep those slots for that. Right. So Lisa, you were telling us about other people. Lisa?
No, I think I ran out of steam. I got too excited about the anyway, we'll come to that. Where is everybody else?
Where do people have time in this world? People are so busy. Everyone is doing the mediation.
People should have time for you, Vikram.
They have time when you fix a slot for them. That's when they have the time. You fix a slot, they'll come in. General conversations, I think people don't have time for. I think also because, I don't know, maybe the time aspect of it, because Andrea sent a message, she's in some meeting, that Constantia sent a message. So of course, so everyone has something. So, but it doesn't matter. The idea is just to have a last session kind of thing. So anything on learning and key takeaways, please.
I better check and see if I was supposed to be in a meeting. Maybe I was supposed to be in a meeting and I'm missing it for you.
No, good. So Louis, anything else from anyone else? Did you hear anyone else? Anything that you picked up?
No, I just got nice comments about the drawing. I think it makes sense, whatever you were thinking about being a router, and that's how we help people connect and charge. Yeah.
So it was nice. So we've picked up at least something that we can then expand on. It'll be easier to explain the whole concept of spirituality and something, but otherwise it becomes an abstract concept, and everyone has their views on it, but at least something that you can all discuss together. And where is the issue coming up? Like you said, batteries down, or does the phone not have any Wi-Fi connectivity? It doesn't have the hardware. Some people don't have the hardware itself. So do we need to do something about that? So interesting things can come around those discussions.
Yeah.
But what is the heart? What is the soul? Is the heart the hardware, or is the software? Is the what? So interesting things.
Yeah.
So anything else, Lisa, you want to throw light on? Because you're the one who watch things. Louis has not found time to watch anything.
Well, I'll come back to a few things that hit me, because I mean, a lot of people were very enmeshed with what happens in the mediation, but Mr. Panchu said something that struck me, and it was interesting for me, and I'll tell you why. Because he was talking about, like he said, letting go and just letting God just, lead wherever. I think that he said something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Am I correct? So
surrender. Basically, it is surrender. Surrender to.
Surrender, yes, exactly. And so listening to that, it was interesting to me, because it just so happens that on Wednesday I was in a meeting with these fellows who've come out of prison, and we have a regular once a month meeting where they get together. And it turned out to be testimonials, and they started just talking about how they had surrendered to God. And this was a very religious thing for them, but also spiritual. And they each said that in order for them to be able to be on this right track now, that surrender was important. And it struck me that this is like such a universal truth. It doesn't matter which religion, because I'm hearing this in with people who follow Islam. I'm hearing this with people who are Christians. I'm hearing this with Mr. Panchu, who's a Hindu. And that surrender seems to be a theme that follows through for people in spirituality. And it was interesting to me too, because that these fellows have been in very deep conflict, and they're finding their way out through that process. So I was sensing a theme. So that struck me.
And now hi to Rosalia. Rosalia, hi.
Rosalia.
Hello.
Hi.
Apologize for the tardiness. I was in another meeting.
No, it's good you came in. Of course,
there's no excuses.
No, you missed the best part of the whole thing. The presentation by Louis, you missed that. So that's something you'll have to watch later.
Okay.
I don't know, because I don't know whether you saw his graphic. He made a graphic and he posted it on LinkedIn.
No.
So based on our conversation or in his session, there's something that he picked up and he made a very interesting graphic on that. Well, Louis, why don't you just show it to her, please? Rosalia, we might not be able to see it otherwise. I don't know whether she'll go back to watch the recording, but so interestingly, what we were discussing was we had to come out with some analogy to spirituality and heart, soul. So I said, let's look at the mediators as routers, and the signal that is there is always there. That I mean, it's not that the signal is not around; it's just picking it up. So, of course, Louis will tell us quickly on that.
Okay, it's like we are cell phones, and when we're in conflict, we lose energy, we lose connection, because when we have good relationships, when we accomplish our goals, and we live in a good environment, we feel connected with others. So when we are talking about beautiful mind, hearts, and soul, Vikram was saying that we are like routers, that we help people reconnect, as when we are with our cell phones and we lose connection and we are desperate looking for the Wi-Fi or try to call the cell phone company. So we are those routers, and we have this energy all around. And I relate that to the Force as the concept of the Force in the Star Wars saga, and the mediation process help us to reconnect and connect our minds and our hearts. And in this process, we start charging our battery, we start connecting. That's why you see a little connection here. And then we get into the process, and the process that we work together to build stuff, to reach agreements, to build solutions, or build consensus. We are surrounded or helped by the energy that the mediators bring to create a good environment, to having the good force that is all around us. And this concept is connected to the Qi in Japanese, in Chinese, and to the Ki in Japanese, and Prana in Hindi, and that's kind of keep us in balance and make us feel warm, like it is a heart that light up in his chest, and then we can reach agreements and hug each other if that's where we end up. But at the end, we have a lot of energy, connection, and full of battery, and that's it.
And this will be expanded as we go along. People will come up with various aspects of it, that the malware that is introduced by some things. And
The spoiler, yeah.
And there are so I mean, in
Excellent.
my experience, there are conflicts that should not be, or are better not being successful. They're better going to the court, because there are, you know, a lot of things going on that it's better that they go to the court. And those are much more draining for us to mediate than the ones that connect, because when they connect, we get recharged. But when they, looking at yours, that's what I was thinking. When they don't connect, or maybe they're not right for mediation, they take a lot more out of us, because even if we know that we did everything that we should do and we did it right, and we review that, we also feel that disconnection very intensely. So that's why I think mediators have to be at a point in their own process where they are at peace with themselves. I think it's very important. I also
I think the analogy from that, Lisa. No, I think because everything that you say, we'll have to put it into this graphic.
Oh no!
So I'll tell you what you said is some of them are good.
Have a section of they don't
everything.
Connect. And we feel drained.
All discussions have to have
a mediators going. Oh my goodness!
So all discussions around that's what, like you said, some of them are good for courts and things don't happen. Look at it from this perspective. Every phone. You have these, everything is not a smartphone. Phones don't have Wi-Fi connect. All phones don't have Wi-Fi connectivity. So if you don't have it, you can't connect to it. If you don't connect to it, things are not going to go anywhere. So let's just create those things with it.
And malware definitely has to be there.
Yeah,
it's like full of malware. You have to fix the code.
Exactly. Well, first of all, Louis, I really like your graphic. I see you're a Star Wars fan. May the force be with you. Oh my God.
Was calling him as a child, he's gone forth with that. I'm with that too. I got, yes, the force.
But you know what? I agree, because I mean, the force has to be with the mediator. Well, first of all,
by the way, just to say, just because you brought up the force, May the 4th is coming up. So May the 4th be with you.
Oh, May the 4th. What's May the 4th?
May the 4th is a play on the force be with you. And so on May the 4th, it's Star Wars Day. And you go around telling everybody, May the 4th be with you. You're wishing everyone. It's
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. But anyhow, speaking of, I just wanted to make the link with the malware and the fact that some cases have to go to court. And I agree with that, because it comes down to the fact that in some cases, the parties are not of good faith. I mean, they go in there because they want a settlement. They want some cash settlement or whatever. So the mediator, no matter how much you try, the case is already, it's just not conducive to mediation. And so it's not the mediator's fault. It's the will of the parties, basically, comes down to, and the intention and what their objective is. And, in some cases it could be one party, not both, but so we always do need, obviously, the court system. That goes without saying. So it just reaffirms the fact that mediation does not replace the judicial system. It never will, but it's a nice addend.
But Rosilla, we have to go into heart, soul, spirituality, and the key takeaways from the symposium. Did you watch any of the others?
A little bit. I watched a little bit of Teresa's. But I couldn't watch much because I've just been so caught up.
I saw
a lot
Teresa's,
that's been going on.
I would say, like Ken, what I really enjoyed about Ken, and what I always enjoy about Ken, is how he connects a lot of this to literature. And he takes a lot out of literature and uses that as really good metaphors and examples. And so I think he really set a nice tone going into the literature. Just, I think, there was some Socrates, and there was, also, I can't remember all of the ones that he hit, but I was so excited because I love how he connects all of that. And it's so perfect with all the books behind him always. I think he also brought up, he also brought up literature from I think, Indian literature as well. So he hit a lot of different, and Buddhism. So he also hit that. So, those different traditions and melding that. And I think it also sets the pace for, where do we get these learnings? What's underneath our spirituality in terms of philosophy? And we may all come from different streams. So I find that, really interesting.
Well, I mean, yes, we may come from different streams, but obviously our background, our upbringing, what we've been exposed to within our own families and our environment and our education, and then obviously, if also there's also the religious aspect. I mean, but I think religion and spirituality they go hand in hand, obviously, but a lot of it has to do with our upbringing, I think, and basically our environment. And our education, what we've learned, and what we take from there. And obviously, for me, mediation is taking the good part. It's taking the good and getting rid of, and tossing aside what's not so good.
Rosalie,
focusing on what the potential for good is, and
Watch the session with Federico. Federico has gone into Christianity, and he's spoken a lot about that. So that's also, interesting. But the fact of the soul, really, in terms of Christianity, not too much came out from there. Just the spirit aspect came up. So that part of it maybe needs a little more exploration as to what the soul means in Christianity. Maybe we need that. But otherwise, yeah. What else? You didn't get to see too many, you saying?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. I'm gonna have to find some time to listen to a few of them. I don't know when.
Lisa's seen a lot of them, so she'll tell us more. Yes.
No, don't make it all on me.
It's on you. You're the only one who's seen them besides me.
Yeah,
you're the only one. I think that's why people did not come, because they haven't seen them. So how do they discuss it? Now I understand. That's where the issue lies.
What I was expecting everyone to show up and then just contribute, basically, just contribute, just expand on what they had presented, just throw in one or two liners, and with the list that you have here, you would have a great discussion, even if we didn't watch each other's presentations. But
Vikram was very good at sticking to the questions. So, my analysis of Vikram, he was very good at sticking to the questions and keeping us into the same format, which I liked. And as Mr. Panchu said, he has a way of getting things out of us that, we didn't expect. So he gets credit for that as well, because he did that throughout. So that was good, because I think, it's difficult. I find that for some people, for some of us, I know, like, for me, spirituality is something that I always keep private.
Mm-hmm.
And so to talk about it, I came out a little bit more than I would have come out, in an ordinary conversation. But some people struggle with that. It's about, you have it, you feel it, but you're not really ready to share it. And others are more ready. So it depends on where you are in terms of your ability or willingness or cultural, you know, the way you are culturally to talk about spirituality, because I think sometimes that's a very deep part of us. But I think, you know, one of the threads that came through it is that we all connect with that. We all connect with that in the ways that we are in our being in our everyday lives. But also, I think it drives our choices in terms of why we chose to do mediation. What is it that fuels us? Like Louis' graphic, again, going back to Louis' graphic, because it kind of ties up a lot of what we did, that recharging when the puzzle pieces are together, that's part of also, you know, our value system and what drives us. And I heard a lot of people talking a lot about what happened or examples that happened in mediation and how that, you know, went through the process. So that becomes part of it, that I think that shows, you know, where we are spiritually. So it's where you are in terms of, you know, how you connect to that.
But I also think that it's when you said, you know, a lot of us are called to mediation, and Vikram, I know in our discussion we did discuss the fact that you're either born with it or you're not. Like, you know, you can get the training to become a mediator, but you either have it or you don't, and it's a calling from within. And what motivates that calling? It could be a sense of dissatisfaction with the status quo, and the feeling that, you know, that you can do more, like there's something more out there, and that we can contribute. The need to feel that we need to contribute to the community, or I know that's my motivation. And yes, Lisa, I agree with you. Spirit, you know, talking about spirituality, it's very personal also for me. I'm not comfortable with discussing it in the general public. I would be only comfortable in with certain people, in a safe environment, because society, it's like, it's as if it's not politically correct. A lot of times
it's not
politically correct to talk about spirituality, religion, just like politics, or it's like it's one of those taboo, you know. You're not supposed to discuss these issues in and also, as a public servant, we're not supposed to, we're supposed to be neutral, impartial, and you know, you're not supposed to show that lens also. You're supposed to be applying whatever policy, and so it's like I'm always struggling with that in the public eye, you know. But
you know what's interesting to me, because I've been doing this process with Virginia Swain, and she did all this stuff with the United Nations. And what surprised me is that as we've had people in our sessions who are also politically involved, they're like, they do connect with it, but they never talk about it either. And a lot of their spirituality drives what they do. I'm like, wow, but it's never talked about.
But you must, that's why you must, Lisa, you must watch Hans Siebert's session. The work that he's doing, Hans Siebert.
Okay, I haven't seen Hans yet, so I will watch Hans. I saw Rosalia because, of course, I can't miss her.
No, the kind of work that he's doing, he's out there in violence related conflicts all over the world, will be with the Middle East, and now is working somewhere in Myanmar and all those places. So when he talks about it, and he says how mediators have that, whatever they call that toolkit, and they take it somewhere else and think that everything will happen around that, rather than understanding the ground realities and working with it. So they think, oh, it doesn't work because our toolkit doesn't fit in, not that we have to change our tools. And he's talking about these aspects being important. So you must watch that, because that's also an area where people might not think that this comes into play. And this happened in the last symposium also, when Shadia Maraban from Indonesia, when she spoke about it. She also works in violence related conflict areas, and she was talking about how the heart and people who, of course, are considered, I mean, of course, dangerous by some people with guns and everything, them breaking down and crying with her in front of her. So there are those touching the right places.
That's what I heard from the men who had been in prison, you know, that emotional part, you know, that overwhelming what conflict does to you. I mean, one of the men was talking about, at 22, how he was in prison for murder, and how, his whole process of change. And when I hear people then in deep conflict, I remember also doing a dialogue with people from Rwanda. And we were doing the dialogue on forgiveness and the breaking down about how can I even think about forgiveness. Those things come up. And then we realize how, when that spirit and trauma hits you, when it's broken, how do you get that? Because healing comes through that, at least some process of forgiveness. It doesn't mean, and how do you get to that? So there's so much, I mean, really, but I really will have to listen to Hans now.
But interesting thing was Elia's example of her nephew. That was, I think, the best. This is what I've been saying. These people are out there. These children are out there. We just have to, they have to be out there doing this work only, and not sending them to another path and saying this is also what they do. They have
Louis does all this wonderful work. Louis, you've been, in the middle of so many things.
Yeah.
Yes. What can I say? And many of those things are very, very emotionally charged, and when we are at that level of, I guess, high bad energy or bad mood, or if people use that tactic like in negotiation to be perceived as not as evil but as radical or too strong, it's very difficult to infuse, to try to put or set up the right environment and bring the mind and the soul and the spirituality. So first, people need to calm down, and sometimes because this is so emotionally charged, the best thing you can do at those situations is just have or facilitate transactional negotiations, and it's very difficult to get into deep interests, concerns, worries, hopes, and expectations. It's like, no, if you don't give me $50,000 million, we are not even, we don't release the facilities that we are taking, and we are not going to sit and have dialogue. So you need to start telling us if you are going to do something major for us or not. So yeah. And when you have a court system, as Rosalia was saying, well, court system works. Yes, if it works, because okay, we cannot get an agreement, let's go to the court system and the judges will figure out and tell us who's right and who's wrong. But if the court system doesn't work well, and the government doesn't have the capacity to be or to use the force in a legal way or in a lawful way, it's more difficult to have people wanting to control themselves. I don't know if I'm talking too vague, but
no, I get what you're talking about, and I've always said that too. The parties have to be ready to come to the to come to that point, and they're not always ready. And sometimes we're in this position of like, okay, we can't solve, the middle of the war in Ukraine unless these two parties, are ready to come to the table. And if they're not, then how do you solve it? How do you even get to a point where you can finally get to this relationship? That takes a long time. Yep. And a lot more finesse, and it's really difficult. And then I hear what you're saying, and that makes it hard for us because we want to see that happen. And then you feel powerless as a mediator.
Actually, speaking of the war in Ukraine, okay, I was I was observing, okay, like the fact that the Secretary General of the UN went to Russia, and then he went to the Ukraine, okay, but he went to Russia first. He went to meet with, the leader of the Russian Federation, and the leader of Ukraine was upset by the fact that the Secretary General went first to Russia and then went to the Ukraine.
Yeah.
I mean, I found that interesting, okay? And I said, wow, like there's a conflict within a conflict, but he, obviously, just that action, okay? Now, motivated
how
him.
do we even choose, like when we control the process? Like I like the transformative process because you're free from that. But if you're choosing who speaks first, that's a reaction that can happen. Well, you favored them; they got to speak
exactly.
first.
So I found that interesting. Okay, and then I said, I was like, well, we don't know what's behind there. We don't know what his agenda is.
Right.
We don't know what the discussion is. We just hear the blogs on the news. Okay, but I found that very interesting. Okay, and I said, wow, what a position he's in. He's in a really difficult position. I mean, the Secretary General, like, it's like he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Okay, so but. He did go afterwards to the Ukraine, and he made a concession with respect to the failure of the Security Council, because of all the veto votes and whatnot, and that appeased the leader of the Ukraine. He de-escalated, that internal conflict there, like that. So I found that quite interesting. So within the conflict, there's other conflicts that can arise. So it's very complicated. You really have to unpeel that onion, like the mediator. So it's going to take, I don't know how, the parties, it comes down to to what you said, Lisa, and the parties have to be ready. And even Louis, like sometimes it's very difficult because they're not there yet. They're not there. Are they going to get there? That's the question. That's the question.
And you have like all these other different things, like appeasement is one thing, like we have that. If we talk about, again, going back to Bali, right? They have a whole yearly ceremony of giving things to the evil gods. You've got to appease them so that everything is at peace. You have to, make sure that they are happy so that they don't create trouble. And so that idea of appeasement is one thing that appease those factions. And then I think about, like, I don't know, for some reason I kept getting all of these messages from Hanuman Chalisa, and I think, that thing again, like Hanuman is going around talking about all these bad, like, spirits, kind of like, I'm saying spirits because that's just an easier way to talk about it, because I won't remember the proper term, get in people's bodies and they don't see the truth. It's like, wow, that's kind of like what we see, in mediation. So that same thing comes with this whole big conflict and larger conflicts. Like, people are not seeing it because something gets inside you. When you're angry, that's what it's like. Something gets inside you and you can't see anything else other than your side.
Why are you not seeing Constantia? Constantia's coming.
I see her.
You are so lost in your discussion. If she's in my living room, someone walked into my living room, you didn't even say hi to her. Hi,
but
Constantia.
That's your job.
People are so lost in this.
It's your living room.
But Constantia can't hear us. So imagine we're discussing everything around her, but she can't hear us. But
hi, Constantia.
Okay, she can't hear us. She can't hear us. So, but Rosalie, I really want you to tell us more about your nephew, because I really found that very interesting. So please tell us more about him.
Actually, my nephew, I have a 12-year-old nephew, but he's very special. My brother was telling me about him. He's very popular. He was also since he's a child. I mean, he's special. Since the day he was born. What can I say? I love him. I love him to death. But he's got a gift. He brings his. He plays soccer. First of all, he loves soccer. He's been playing in leagues since he was, I think, 3-4 years old. And he's got this gift of bringing his friends together. And, even when they fight, he's the peacemaker. And he's a natural peacemaker. And my brother was telling me about a situation that they had within the household, with my niece, his sister. It was a situation, and it caused a little bit of upheaval. The parents were upset, my brother and my sister-in-law. And my nephew was the one that actually de-escalated the whole conflict and mediated between my niece and her parents, but he does the same thing with his friends. So he's very popular. And I mean, he has no training in mediation whatsoever. He's a natural, basically.
That's the important part. Yeah, that's exactly why Lisa and Louis should have heard it instead of being on their phones. This is really important. This is what I've been trying to say, that these are the people out there. We have to be able to identify them. But has Constantia got the speaker going or not? I don't know. You can hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So what has happened is Constantia's session could not take place because she was in a mediation. So
it's 8 o'clock in the morning. But
I wanted to talk about that identification process. So let's say, you never know like who really is going to be like a natural mediator. And sometimes the people that we look at, we think, oh, they'd never be a mediator, turn out to be good mediators.
No, but did you listen to
Rosalia?
You
can't just go say.
You can. First tell me, did you listen to Rosalia or not? You were on your phone. You were not listening to her.
I did listen to. No, I listened to Rosalia.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, there are some people you can immediately say, okay, this person is potential. But there are others that through the process of learning are like, well, you never thought that they'd make good mediators. They do, because I've seen that as well. So it's sometimes difficult because sometimes what we are talking about in terms of the spirituality and that place where the mediator is, it's sometimes difficult to identify that from the outside. Sometimes it's easy. So you can just pick up a person and say, that's it. But sometimes it's not so easy.
Listen, let me tell you how I'm looking at it. Look, there is ADR, arbitration, mediation, this, that, and the other. Then there's litigation. There's so much dispute resolution, so many ways of going about it. You can say, let's talk about all of them. I said focused on mediation. The other thing is about, yes, people can become something. Yeah, they can become something. That can also happen. But let's focus on people who already have it. Let's bring them out. We can't bring the entire world at one go. Step by step, these people, when they come out, other people will see them and see the work that they're doing and relate to them, and more people will come out. But problem is, everything at the same time, we should be able to change the world. And everyone we can change, and everyone we can make into a peacemaker and a mediator.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
people who can change.
Think about who is called to mediation. And if you think about it in the spiritual process, like as a calling, there are going to be many different places where you're going to find the people who are called. And you can't just say, well, we'll just go to, this person. And at what stage in life? Somebody may be going through, like I said, when I look at these guys who've been through prison, I never would have put them in the category as mediators. And yet, after going through all of that stuff, they have come out in a different place. So at what stage in life? Some children, we might see a 2-year-old and we know like that person, that child is on that path.
I'll tell you.
But we might also find somebody who's 70, who's just
you've heard me. I'm cutting you off because you've heard me so many times, but still I've not been able to explain this to you. People are going to identify. They are going to use those people. We don't have to do anything. So we are telling people.
I'm not saying you do anything, but there may be people that maybe
there may be
of one or the other.
These are maybes.
You're shutting out people. Nobody's saying we're going to identify at 2 years old and only those kids will be mediators and the rest will never be.
Again,
okay. I think we're going to have to mediate the session.
These are maybe. These are out there. They're out there. let's look at them, the maybes in this world. Luis has to come in. Maybe. Let's Luis, please come in.
One of the, I understand that one of the big efforts of Vikram is to identify people who has that are mediators in question marks, like that they are innate, that they have the capacity of the nephew that plays soccer that can bring friends together and help them reach agreements and bring peace to the group. So as we talked before, at some point of time, that innate stuff and others that may be built with time. Vikram wants to identify those innate skill, mind, beautiful, and soul. Now, I think maybe these beautiful babies need mediators to be identified, because maybe these beautiful minds and souls, they don't know that the skill or the beauty that they have or the uniqueness is to be peace builders. And maybe they have never heard the expression of peace builders. So that's why maybe we need mediators to say something like, oh, there's a peace builder going, let's capture him and bring him.
Look, this is what I'm saying, that no one listens to me. It's been, what, 2 years back, I kept saying, my 1,000, identify 1,000. That's all I said, that I'll identify those 1,000 and they identify 1,000. We'll have 1 million people out there. That was the whole idea about getting people together. But what I realized was that because everyone, of course, everyone's busy. I'm not saying people have time to do that. But I felt then that that next level was not happening. So now I have to find ways to get it out on my own to larger number of people. So in that case, people will otherwise have to tell me. It's like Rosalia, of course, knows about her nephew, but her not being a mediator also, she would still know about that nephew. So I'm saying people otherwise will have to start giving us information on these people. We'll get them on Zoom calls. Luis will be on the Zoom call. Rosalia will be there. Lisa will be there. Constantia will be there. Interact with them. See what you see about them. See how you think we can take them forward. So that's what I'll have to get that together, which I thought you would do, but no one did that. Yes.
Well, I have another example, Vikram. I have another example. My grandmother, okay, when she was alive, my mom always told me, my grandmother who lived in Italy, in Sicily, she was like 4'9", not even 5 feet. She was a little petite little woman, very humble. Anyhow, to make a long story short, she was a peacemaker. She was recognized by her neighbors and her community as a peacemaker. She passed away in 1990. I don't know, the late 90s. I remember I was still studying at that time. But she was a very humble, simple person. Okay, but believe it or not, she was so well respected in the community, in the town where she lived, that when she passed away, I mean, my aunts were saying they were astounded at the number of people that came to her funeral and the caliber. There were even, there was the mayor that came. I mean, this is a little old lady, that was not much education, raised her children during the Second World War, and raised a family and took care of her husband and their family in the best that she could. But she was a mediator. She always brought peace within her community. When there was my mom used to tell me stories about her, my grandmother, how the neighbors would come to see her when there was a dispute. Like, they would basically resolve the dispute outside the house, like on the sidewalk.
Exactly. That's exactly what we need. Yeah.
She's a perfect example also.
And that I was not, so I was in a different direction, which is, again, Vikram is in one direction and I'm in a different direction. It's what I was talking about.
Sometimes we go in that direction because I'm in that direction.
Don't try to assume what I'm saying. Let me try to explain, because you are assuming that I'm talking about something different. What I'm talking about is taking it away from us recognizing who's a mediator, take it away from that, and then think about the internal journey. And where is that internal journey? How do people discover themselves that they're mediators? And some people, this is what I was trying to talk about. Some people discover that themselves, you know, at a young age. Some people discover that themselves after they take it. Maybe they want to take a training, or they take some, like Ken talked about, like he saw mediation and like it clicked with him.
Exactly what I'm saying, Lisa. That
This is
all
what
this
I'm
has
talking
happened.
about.
No,
That's what I was talking about.
What I'm feeling sad. Why I'm cutting you off is why I'm cutting you off. I'm going to cut you off because I've had these discussions with you so many times that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. That let's put these lectures out. Ken said I went for a lecture about mediation and 2 minutes flat I knew my life had changed. So I started putting those lectures out. So all those things are happening. We are still
I'm
going
not
back
in
to that
conflict with you. I'm
I
agreeing
know, but
with
we're not
you,
moving
and
forward.
you're hearing
We have
something
to move
different.
We have to move
Okay,
forward.
I gotta go because we're in conflict, so I'm leaving. I'm avoiding. I'm going to be a conflict avoider and get the heck out
Lisa,
of
you're not
here.
going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
I gotta avoid this conflict. I don't
You're
want
not going anywhere because Constantia hasn't told us about her concept of heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation because her session got missed out. So, Constantia, please tell us. Constantia, you'll have to unmute yourself.
I just did. Thank you. No, I was listening as a good listener, and I immediately connected to Lisa because that happened to me on my journey through mediation for the last, let's say, 12 years now, since I became a lawyer. And I was trying to find within myself which way I could take in order to justify my choice to myself, first place. And there was a time when I couldn't find the exact answer, but knowing myself with the means that I had, regardless the fact I meditated. I'm a practitioner for many years, but regardless of that, as I went along from the beginning and knowing that law was not the only way of fulfilling my expectations, but I knew that I had this very strong feeling that I shouldn't leave the field. And that's when I became in contact with the first approaches to mediation in Brazil 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So I said, there's a light at the end of my tunnel. But this feeling again came from me, from my personality, from my level of knowledge about my goals in life. You know, it all became we say that the universe was conspiring on my behalf. And I was lucky because I was aware of that. I don't know what actually happened, but I knew I had the means within me to justify my journey. And that's why I insisted in being a lawyer, whatever approach and collaborative, because there was a time when I didn't know which kind of lawyer I was, but definitely I wasn't a litigant one. And that's when mediation came in. And I have to admit, Vikram, that at this early stage, I even thought about becoming an arbitral judge, because I took this ICC course in Brazil on arbitration, but I just got the certificate and filed it.
But I tell you the path that of course, Lisa has heard me a lot of times and I'll repeat it. One is the identification of people who are already know about them. So that's one path happening. The other is to inspire people and put out material where they listen to it and they say, oh, this is what I want to be a part of. The other aspect is the skill development when you've identified. So we have a whole program on skill development. So all these things are happening at the same time, but the people who are already naturally identified by people, why are we not going to leave them out only because maybe there is a maybe, there are a lot of maybes, we'll pick up all those maybes, but the ones who are already there, sometimes we lose sight of what we have, thinking, no, we have a pot of gold on the other side, let's go there. But it's lying here, let's pick up these little pieces of gold that we have, we'll make a pot of gold. So somewhere I think that's the difference in the way I am looking at it. Let's start somewhere, you'll feel happy, feel very happy when you meet these people. Because I've test marketed, like you do test marketing. I did my test marketing, so I did my little discussion with some villagers in India. I found out those names, those people are there. So this is, I mean, it's all available. I can't go out and talk to all of them. So I'm looking at it, either I thought people will go out and talk to them, which I've expected OU people to all do that. But now I'll look at some mass media or something to be able to reach out. Let's see how that happens. But Rosalia wants to come in. Please, Rosalia.
Sure. Okay. So Vikram, what I wanted to say is my journey was very similar to Constance's journey. Same thing. Okay. Constanza, I too, I went into law. I was in litigation, but I did a lot of self introspection and reflection, and I realized that mediation was my path. But all that being said, what I think I honestly believe is, and to bring in what Lisa was saying, how come these guys that were prisoners at 70 years old became great mediators? I honestly believe that we have a path in life, like we have a journey, and some of us, like we have a purpose. Basically, we're born, each and every one of us has that spiritual purpose, that higher level, that that path that we're supposed to be taking, that's correct for us, for our personality. And some of us discover it before others, like we at a younger age, and some we through all the experiences that we have, we're eventually led to that path. Our experiences could be negative, they could be positive, life-changing experiences. Lisa, in the case of your clients, like the fact that they ended up in prison, and that may have been part of their path, but it actually the restoration, it made them become better persons, and they discovered that they had this this desire, this and this gift. That's what that's my view, that's my belief. But I honestly believe that each and every one of us has a path, and we are called to it one way or another. And as my husband likes to say, everything that we do in life is not wasted, because how many times I've had discussions with him, it's like, I feel like I wasted my life. And this, my God, I could have started this a long time ago, and I would have been 20 years ahead. But you know what? And then he tells me, it's fine. You have to go through what you went through, because you had to learn things from the experiences that you had, or whatever you were doing, and it only makes it richer. It only makes you richer as a mediator. You bring that experience, that life experience, to the table. For in the example that Lisa was saying about the prisoners, I mean, can you imagine, what they bring to a table, the compassion, like if they have to mediate, in cases in the system, like the criminal law system. I mean, the insight that these guys have, they have firsthand experience, which some of us would never. We can't even conceive of that reality, because we haven't been exposed to it. So I mean, that's my view.
But only Constantia, what we need to Constantia, she has to talk about heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation, because we haven't heard from you. That session of yours didn't happen, and I still want to hear some aspect of it. So what does that mean to you? What does heart, soul, spirituality mean to you, and how do you connect it to mediation? Please.
Very briefly, because it all comes to to the fact that for me, like I said, my journey has been very productive conspiration on my behalf. So the fact that I found myself wanting to be a mediator, and I'm not only a mediator, but a full-time mediator, is still in this generation, came from the findings that I've been getting through this journey, through meditation, through dancing. Dancing is a very important part of my life. I like to dance. It's a hobby, but I take it very seriously. I feel the connection between dancing and mediating when. And I've been doing most of the time ballroom dance. It takes two to tango. So this kind of relationship relates very much to the idea, to the mediation environment, where one says one partner says something and the other one has to reply to it and to behave in a way that the dance flows. So I try to take this concept to my mediation work and my mediation project as a mediator, as part of my identity. Obviously, if you like Brazil, speaking of the religious aspect and what it has its connections to spirituality and so, like the sound majority of Brazilians, we are perhaps the second largest Catholic country in the world. So I was born and raised in a Catholic family. I went to a Catholic school throughout my life, and but again, Brazilians, regardless of their religious background, original religious background, because of our culture, we're a melting pot as far as culture is concerned. We have some points of connection with, personally, individually speaking. It's very common that people have connections and sympathize with other religious beliefs and philosophy. So I take Buddhism and the Buddhist philosophy very seriously into my life, and also spiritualism, because Brazil is also a very we have a very significant group of people who are in spiritualism. The French, and they follow the French roots of it. So I try to match the best of all these words, and that's what I understand by spirituality. And it obviously starts in the soul. And the connection, I'm also very aware of that, realizing that it comes from, all of this comes from the soul, but we have also we cannot afford to neglect the rational part of us as human beings. So it's always this permanent dilemma, but I can deal very comfortably with it, and that's what I try to take to my mediation job.
But have you explored more on what the soul is, what spirituality is? Have you explored that?
Yeah, I try to, in my daily life, I try to take it. It's always a topic on my agenda. And the fact that I meditate regularly, I'm very disciplined on my meditation practice. And this is something that really helps me, not only in all walks of my life.
But connecting it to the mediation, to the mediator, the process and the parties, and something that you want to tell us about that.
Oh yeah, so well, for instance, one thing that we as meditation practitioners that we are told to practice and to do is to go to the balcony. Now, when we are in this reflection and throughout our meditation, we are trained in a good way to look at us from the outside, and that's what we do when we are mediating. We encourage people to go to the balcony. So this is something which I find very practical, very easy to connect with, among other things.
But what about the connections of the soul, the heart in the process? Because of course you haven't gone through Louis's presentation and how we had created.
I've seen it. I've seen seen his drawing, his graphic, his work of art. It's a work of art. Yeah, congratulations.
That's going to be the highlight of the symposium. Louis Ore's graphic.
Yeah.
No, but the idea was to try and create an analogy. But if there is something that in terms of those connections that you have been able to think about, how that works, how that energy works, what is that energy, what is the soul, what is spirituality? So something that you have thought about on that, just a little elaboration of that.
No, I've been listening to other fellows here talking to you, and I tend to agree with all of them as far as the efforts that they put on to bring to the mediation setting, you know, this connection between soul and spirituality, and try to empathize with people and try to because again, like they said, like Zaida said yesterday morning, if we're not in this position, how can we conduct people and to the same path? We are in the same way, but in different stages. So if you want to have people walk along with you, you have to help them. And this is a means of doing it, because as much as you can express your human and your with all that is included, heart, soul, and spirituality, as long as they can identify that in you and us as mediators, then they will most be likely join you, and we can walk hand in hand.
Okay, so now Rosalia and Louis will ask you whatever. Rosalia, what you want to ask Constantia something?
Well, I agree with what Constantia is saying, that the heart and soul, it's sad. You have to go in with, we have to be compassionate. If we're not disposed ourselves and being compassionate and going in with that mindset of in good faith and wanting a good result, and being exactly, I would say compassionate, exactly that's the word that I would use. Then what's the point? I mean, we have to be predisposed also, and that comes from our calling, I think, as mediators, whether it be early in life or later in life. But the fact that we're here, the fact that we are on this platform, and the fact that we're called to practice mediation is because we want to contribute. There's a higher calling behind it. I do see the connection with the spirituality, by all means. Because that's what motivates me. What motivated me was my value system to go into this profession, because I wanted something more. I wanted to contribute. I wanted to bring in, the knowledge that I had from my legal background, but I also wanted I wanted to create a positive impact. I didn't like the competitiveness and the win at all, win at all costs. I like the win-win and mindset, basically.
Now we want to ask Constantia some questions. Lisa, is there something that you want to ask Constantia?
No.
Something. I'm sure there is something.
She doesn't.
Oh, there's nothing I want to ask.
There's an opportunity for someone other than me to ask something, and I'm giving that opportunity. Oh. Nothing. So, Luis, anything that you want to ask Constantia?
I just wanted to. Well, I was thinking about something that you mentioned earlier. So when we're in your huge plan, your master plan of looking for people with that innate ability to peace building, and then listen to our colleagues talk about religion, I don't know why it came to my mind this expression or piece of the Bible. I grew up Catholic. I went to a Jesuit school where compassion is one of the biggest values. But I'm imagining Vikram and some of us are doing this task force as when Jesus told the disciples, well, now you are not fishers of fishes, now you're fisher of people. So now we are going to go out and fishing for innate mediators, kids, kind of thing.
No, I tell Luis, we don't have to do anything. Like why am I repeating what Rosalia told me in the symposium? She told me about her nephew. And that is what the important part, which I have always been saying, that these people are there. People know about them. Only thing is, how do we put this person on a path where the person is available to do peacemaking, mediations, depending on what the person's approach to the whole thing is. So how do we do that so that these people are always available to communities to help them? Because otherwise the child will go into a path which otherwise, well, how does a person go into some other path? It's because first the Maslow's need hierarchy theory. So where are my basics going to be met? So they'll go into that direction. Instead of that, if we can keep them on the path of something that they have a natural ability for, why shouldn't we do that?
Well, maybe we can like throw the net with some sort of like, I don't know, or not Twitter, because I don't know, or Twitter or Facebook or something, reaching out the calling that Rosalia was saying, because like priests feel the calling of God. Well, we mediators also feel this calling of we need to do some kind of peace building. There's something that draws us to conflict to help to resolve it. So maybe we can post something like, if you feel the calling of serve as a peace building unpaid, so you don't have people saying, oh, I just want a job and I will look for this. So if you feel the volunteer peace building thing in your heart, well, sign up here and maybe we can start putting people together and having these conversations.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I'm going this way. I'm saying that let people tell us about those people instead of the person saying, I have this. Instead of that, other people are going to tell us that, okay, I'm sending you this name of my nephew. This nephew of mine has this natural thing right from the time he was 6 years old. I am seeing this around myself, the way he's gone about, of course, with his friends, but also within the family, there was something, and this nephew came out and did this or did that. And those little clips, I'm also saying that because we have technology at our hands, why not just make a little video, and rather than just sending a letter out, just the person sends out a video saying, okay, this is what I am talking about. This is the person I'm talking about. Consent of the parent that, okay, can I put this person's video out? Can we talk to this little kid also in that video? And get that video out. Look, I can create a platform, a website where we can put all these clips out, which is what the idea is, that anywhere in the world, any corner of the world, you find this person, let's put that person's clip up there. Whoever wants to use it, and I'm saying on the long term, why not a global pool? Someone sitting in one corner of the world and someone gets attracted to that person or feels that connection, which is the heart, soul, spirituality connection, whatever it is, says, why I want this person to help me resolve my disputes. I'm sitting in some other corner of the world. So that's how the larger whole thing we have to look at, and move away from this whole domestic concept of mediation, legislation. Let's move away from that. Let's talk about people doing their mediations wherever they are and enforcing it in any country. Like, what is the Singapore Convention? That's what it is. You can sign that agreement anywhere in the world and enforce it in a country which has ratified the convention. That's what should happen for every mediation. Let's not bind it under this law. Like, it's at least the Singapore Convention gets out of the New York Convention, seat of the arbitration, law that is going to be used, all that. Let's get out of all that. Mediations do not need all that. So that is how we have to start talking to governments and saying, move away from this concept of wanting to legislate it. In this country, only so and so can mediate, that country only that much. No, it's not required. People have to choose whom they have to choose. You are no one to tell them. And this whole colonizers mindset that we will choose for you, we know better than you, dispute resolution has to happen in an institution that we have created. Why? This is a people's process. Let them do it. Don't get into it. So all those conversations have to happen. Is a much larger conversation which needs to happen, which is what the conference is about. That conference is about having these conversations and topics which, of course, we pick up, we talk about it. I put out those topics out on my website, and Rosalia hasn't seen it. Constantia hasn't seen this one. So this is happening on 18th May. Ken's birthday is when we celebrate World Mediators Day. So we have this, the topics are there. Create any other topic that you want. And let's put it out. Let's get people into this, and we'll take it through May. We'll take it into June also. So this is the idea. So that's what it is, Luis. What do you think? What do you think?
I think that it could be send out the net as, hey, if you know somebody who you think has innate ability to peace building and would like to serve on some sort of world task force, sign it, his name here, give us the name or phone number, and then we reach out.
Yeah, and we'll put up that, I'm saying that on that website, I'll put out that clip, put out the person's name, put out everything about the person, contact the person directly. I don't have to be a middleman that two people are connecting. I should be part of that. No, let's connect with these people, use them, value them, first of all. So and I've been to the kind of format which with Lisa also I spoke about a long time back. The format should be society values these people. We don't have to go out and say, oh, pay us this. No. They are paid, they get what they have to get based on the value that people receive from them. So they're not getting into that, oh, I will charge this hourly fee or something. They're not those kind of people. So they should get compensated based on what you gauge as the value, and they get into it. I'm not even saying profession. That's also one of the topics for discussion. Is it a way of life or is it a profession? So we'll discuss that also. So that's how I'm, yeah, Lisa.
Louis, a long time ago, so I mean, we did this project where in one of the housing complexes, I want to say low-income housing, right? So there's a lot of conflict in low-income housing projects in our area. There were at this point. And we went into the housing area, and what we were doing was talking to the residents about, you can determine the culture you're living in. And we identified a few people that were really good at being potential mediators and talked to them about mediation and brought them into the fold. We didn't give them training, which Vikram doesn't like, but more of a mentoring. We did more of a mentoring. And I remember this project was working really, really well because there were these few residents were the kind that were ready for it and really wanted to see it happen. And it worked really well. And I think, that kind of thing is so helpful and in the same format, because if they had completed it, unfortunately what happened, and this is how society gets in the way, that somebody in the apartment that we had designated for these residents to meet. Somebody came in and stole all the stuff, and because of that, the insurance cut down the whole program and everything stopped. And this is how society gets in the negative way, right? The residents were ready, and it would have been good for them because they had a place to go, they had a place to talk to, and they had people in the community to resolve their disputes. But as soon as someone broke into the building, insurance said, no, you can't do it anymore because we can't insure you if you go in and help them out. So therefore it can't happen. Bummer, right? But we need more programs like that.
But I mean, and I know you're not going to like to speak from, but I'm talking about a colonial society. I know there's peer mediation that is very popular. Well, it's starting to gain ground here, in North America, where they teach at the elementary school level and high school level, the students, how to do peer mediation among themselves, because there's a lot of problems with bullying in the schools. Yeah. And so they were using the whole peer mediation format to counter that. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really read up too much on it, but I know that it's something that's been going on, but I'm not that well versed on it. I mean, but it's along the same lines. It's young people, basically. It's youth, that are basically de-escalating the conflicts within, let's say, their school. And they're not paid for this. Obviously, it's it's pure volunteer. But they do have. I don't know. I like I said, I'm not very well versed on it, but I have heard of it, and I think they get some type of training to do the basics in mediation. So there are different. Let's say there are different aspects of the idea that you're putting out there. There are different different angles to it that have already been created. But from what I'm understanding, you want to open this up to everyone, and you want to create awareness sessions, basically.
No, I tell you, what in terms of peer mediation, as the way it goes, it has been maybe introduced into schools. I'm trying to look at it differently. I'm saying there are two parts of it. One is a peacemaker and a mediator. The good parts about being a peacemaker and all the good things about relationships and how getting people together, that's just one part. The skills of a mediator are much more, but it seems that that aspect is not highlighted that much. Yes, there is a discussion on the fact that yes, you can sit together and you can resolve your dispute, but that special focus on the mediator and the mediation is a separate aspect altogether. So I don't want it to be combined into one package. We are going to teach you about what nonviolent communication and how you should get along with each other, all those good things. You must do that. I keep saying that you must do that. And that is why two lots of people, the peacemakers and the mediators. So peacemakers collective and the mediators collective, two different aspects. Getting people together is one very good thing that we need those people. And the other is to mediate. That's another skill. So let's not combine it. Let's not devalue mediators by saying that everyone they just have to bring people together or just sit together and be nice people. Not just that. Let's focus on that. It's a special skill, and some kids have it. Children have it. You know those children. So you just have to bring them out. So that's a little difference. I mean, peer mediation and introducing it to the school, there is no doubt that has to be. That's where it is going to be done. So my way of going about right now, the thought process is that school teachers, I want to involve school teachers in the process. Luis, please, are you listening? School teachers. That is where I think we should start. These are the people who are connected to the children also. They're connected to the communities. They're respected in the communities also. So let's get them into the fold. They will identify those in the school also and in the communities. And then how that atmosphere they create, they need people who are experienced mediators to come in as mentors or in skill development programs. We'll do all that. And I've been saying that it's not just you're not just doing it because you're just helping people. No, in that community, those 1,000 school teachers that you will have, you'll bring up over time, you'll build. They will go out and introduce the concept to so many people. They'll identify so many people. So in that community that you are introducing that whole concept through these 1,000 teachers, will know Luis or Constantia or Lisa or Rosalia as the people who are mediators, and they are promoting mediation. So you have that kind of respect, maybe, or at least that introduction. So when the more complex matters come in, they say, oh, Rosalia is there, Constantia is there, Lisa is there, Luis is there. Let's go to them. Okay, we have our community mediators. Yes, we have them, but let's talk to them also. And maybe as co-mediators, maybe with the community person, you might come as a co-mediator on some matter. So I'm saying you're not just doing it as a pro bono service. This is part of your practice. These people are out there, you're supporting them. How it has to be done is a flexible process. You might come in for one meeting and they will do the other things. We don't know what ways you can go about it. So let's just keep it nice and open and free. But main thing is, I feel that school teachers are the ones we should focus on, get them into the fold. I don't know what Constantia feels of that. Constantia, what do you think?
I think no, just only yesterday evening we had the meeting, mediators meeting, and we're talking about this special project that's being conducted by one of us, because there is a lot of school mediation going around here. It's not my field of practice, mainly one of them. I do major business mediations, but this lady was describing this project that she just started. It's been very successful among youth, young soccer players from different communities, from poor communities in Rio. And they have this regular practice in a public park, and here by Guanabara Bay, which is a postcard location in Rio, and they have this several courts of volleyball courts and tennis courts and soccer courts. And she started on her own because she certified as a mediator, and she thought that this would be there was a particular event in time that she was part of, and that was the trigger to the project. And she started conducting mainly facilitative conversations with the boys, and it's been a year. It all started during this pandemic period, where they had to. They kept training after we overcame the lockdown period, but they start training with all the sanitary measures taking place. But there was a very tense moment where they, through sports, they could connect and still, according to her, manage their own conflicts, personal conflicts. So this is one brief example, but in my practice, not only as a teacher, but as a mediator, I've had some good experiences when people who have been on mediations as parties, when they really start and feel the benefits of mediation as a process and as a practical way of dealing with their lives from then on, then they have become mediators. They have turned to me and asked me for references and instructions and on how and where to certify themselves as mediators. So I think this is good. It talks good. It's a good reference to mediation. Now, when we had that talk with Teresa and Lisa the other day, this adds value. That's what I got from Teresa, the final words. This adds value to what we are doing as persons and as professionals. And we can engage people after that because they trust us. And this is something I work very close with my students, for instance, at the university. It doesn't pay off to be only a certified, a well-trained mediator if you don't work on trust. People have to trust us in first place as persons, as individuals, and as mediators.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that the people who, make good mediators are also people who know how to build trust with other people, that is something that is a skill. I mean, I'm thinking that it's so much more complex because when we think about it, I think we also, as mediators, even we don't have enough, I think, knowledge about how is it and where is it that conflict, develops, and how that, being able to reach conflict before it even develops, that's where, it's a greater skill, that finding that way when we're looking in the US at how people are starting to divide and starting to see themselves in little silos and not seeing the way they connect. And if we don't see the ways we connect, we start to pull apart. And so, as mediators, that's fine. We're great at helping people when they're in conflict. But what is the peacemakers are the ones who are trying to find out, how do we reach them before they even get to that level so there is no conflict? How do we, what is that nature? What is it that develops, that divides us? And I'm looking at things like, so my grandson introduced me to this, game on my phone, which is about, science and the universe, and you go out and you build a universe. And so now I'm getting familiar with all the planets and how all the animals are from his game. But here's what happens. If you want to get more points, you have to look at ads. And all of the ads are about conflict. There's some people running around beating each other up, and how do we kill? And it's all designed to get these kids to try to get these games that are about conflict. That's a societal thing that is negative. That's moving them away from that, and that pull is happening with our youth. Why aren't we having, Vikram was talking about, what do we put out there? We need to put out more things that give admiration and points to the peacemakers. Why don't we have those kinds of games? Why don't we have other things? Why is it so much about, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking my, 10-year-old grandson is looking at girls and beating up people and killing people as advertisements, to get free points in a game that's supposed to be good for them.
So Lisa, we are at a space right now where we are.
Yeah, that's another space.
No. What we're saying is we're in a space where we actually do things. So this is interesting what you've come out with, that there should be a game. So what we have to do is that start putting out what are in that game, what are those things, that options which will come up in front of the children and what direction they take it. And that is where experience of people will come in to put that out. So let's start making that. Let's start developing that. So that's exactly
Louise
what we
would
have
be
to
good
do.
for that.
Yeah, Louis
Louise,
is good.
with
Louis is
your
good for
graphics.
everything.
Let's do a game.
Louis is good for everything. I tell you what he's very good at. He's very good at translating from English to Spanish and Spanish to English. That's what he's the best at. I really like that part.
He's good at so many other things. Don't underestimate
Look,
Louis.
he's my official translator. He's my official translator.
Louise.
I pick him up, I call him whenever I can. So he's the
Louise,
official
may the force be with you.
Yes.
On the 4th of May, you have to call him up and say, "May the 4th be with you."
I will. May the 4th be with you. Oh, I got to go because it's now past
Same here.
11:30 and
But Lisa, before you go, I was wanting to also create a structure, because all this training, less we don't use that word, but a skill development program is what I'm trying to develop, a structured one. So the idea is that you can watch it. It'll be a free resource. Watch it on YouTube. But otherwise, if you want to come in for the Zoom session, but you have to attend all of them and then evaluate those people, at least have a discussion. And then when I say put it up on the website, put those people up there. So it's not certification. So I don't want to call it certification, but at least there is some familiarization or something. So people who are inspired, like Louis was saying, people.
That's great. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
No talking. We are going to do something about it. I mean, I'm doing something about it. So you have to add value to that. Yeah. Add value to that. Yes. So Constantia is also going to do it with her experience.
Put it in my thoughts. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Lisa.
Have a nice weekend. Stay safe.
Bye.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
Rosalia, the card. Talk to me about getting that.
Okay.
Bye, Louis. Bye.
Yeah, I didn't find it. I didn't see it. I'll have to look into it again, but I didn't see
better
it.
go.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Yep.
Bye,
Bye,
Constance.
Constance.